Okay, it says we are live. We'll give it a few moments.
Yeah.
I got the beeps.
Yeah. Hello, Gun Nation.
Okay, it says we're live. Hang on. A few moments. Noob mistake there. How's it going, everybody? Oh, hey, we'll give it a few moments for people to come in and hang out. Thank you very much for the early risers, as always. It's good to see everybody out there. But yeah, we'll give it a few moments. Let people come in. Oh, you clip for a second there. So everybody knows. Big Johnson might be struggling with the internet a little bit tonight, but we'll just keep on going with it. Real quick, music lover. Yes, I still have the P10 Tactical and still love that gun. It's a great gun for sure. Pistol Pete, is this the CZ chat room? Well, it's the everything chat room, although we do like our CZs here.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm having major storms here, so hopefully you don't lose me, and just letting everyone know I apologize. I can't control Mother Nature.
That's right. That's right. And our hearts go out to everybody that's going to be dealing with Florence. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. Not a lot, obviously. It's not as gun related, except as we start thinking about prepping and that sort of thing. And Young Guns is saying, let's see. No, actually, it was, sorry. Hi, Young Guns. Jeff was saying, anybody seen the new P10C that Mac posted about? No, but you've got me very curious. Is it the C or is it an S or an F maybe? I don't know. Bald and Curious, is it the two guy chat? It actually isn't. 17 will be here just a little bit later. So he'll be joining us here in a moment.
It's the 2.5. He's here in spirit right now.
That's right. That's right. How's everybody doing tonight? Big Johnson, how are you?
I am living the dream, sir. How about you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Right now it's dry here. We had a week of rain and it was fantastic. So everything looks just a little bit greener than it did a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's definitely been pouring here. Matter of fact, we finished up that shoot, and right when we finished and put everything up, it literally came a turd floater, and it's been happening ever since. So,
okay, and actually, I need to send 17 the invite. Looks like he is ready, so that is launching. He should be joining us here momentarily. So yeah, Kathleen is saying, where is everyone? Well, I noticed that there is actually another live chat going on right now, but it is what it is. We don't own the evening by any stretch of the imagination, so hopefully those people will be kind of ping-ponging back and forth if they want to. So is what it is.
How many do we have on?
41.
Okay.
41, but that's pretty normal for the beginning of the chat for sure. Yeah, okay. 17, how are you? Uh-oh, no sound. Uno momento. Trash Man, good to see you. Logan, everybody, good to see everybody, of course. Now, Jeff, you've got me curious about this P10. I will have to check that out immediately after the chat. I was not aware that they made any updates. I know that the full size, or the P10F, is out there. It's not really out there for us to buy that I'm aware of, but I know some law enforcement agencies that are currently, in fact, currently testing it, which is pretty exciting. So I think we've got some new things on the horizon. I'm not as interested in the F. However, I'm much more interested in the S.
Yeah, well, the full size, they have the full size mags came out, and they're showing available, and put my hands on them, and so I figured the F wasn't far behind. I think if it comes carry optic ready, that's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, I know it's not yet, but hopefully it will. What's up, 17?
Oh, not much. What's going on with you guys?
Freaking in a turd floater here.
A little bit of weather over there.
Yeah, it's been raining. Been raining up here for about 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. So why don't we kick things off here? I know 17 shared some topics for us to go over. We switched some hosting duties tonight, but I also had a viewer, and C. Kim is not here right now. Hopefully he'll join us, but if not, perhaps later after this airs. But he dropped off a couple of interesting topics in the comments of one of the recent videos I had, and that was very cool. It's always, you guys are amazing to provide some really good content and subjects for us to talk about. about. And this one was really cool. So he was talking about a good topic for the live stream might be the evolution of handguns and phases gun owners go through as we get older. And I think that's really the key, the phases that we go through. So he's talking about things like revolvers, 1911, double action, single action, striker fired. And he says, having gone through the evolution and age factor, I noticed several different types of firearm enthusiasts, and that can play a real big role in these different types of guns, whether it's practical or tactical, collectors, maybe, you know, weekend shooters, whatever it happens to be. So, you know, guys, tell everybody a little bit about the evolution of firearms for you guys from the very beginning and some of the things that you've gone through up until today.
Jay, you start off. That's too hard for me to answer without thinking. So you start.
Well, I was going to say I'm the elder here. You know, I'm the old man. You know, I mean, of course, when I was really young, you know, shot 22 rifles. I think, you know, a lot of kids grew up shooting that. Of course, BB guns first, 22 rifles. Shot some revolvers, 1911s. And, you know, a lot of double action, single action back then, you know, kind of prior to striker fire. And then the striker fire craze hit and everybody went striker fire. And, you know, I see a lot of people, even myself, you know, and I still enjoy striker fire, but going back to single action, double action, not so much revolvers. You know, matter of fact, I shot one day and I hadn't shot one in forever. And I kind of remembered why. I mean, it was a very nice one, but it's just, they're just not, you know, everybody kind of has what they like or what they get used to or kind of what they, you know, enjoy. And nothing against revolvers. I think they're great. You know, I would rather have more capacity, but double action, single action, and striker fire, as far as pistols, you know, I mean, that's kind of where it is for me. And that's, you know, that's going to vary with person to person, but it's kind of where it is with me.
17.
So I don't know. I guess my evolution really started with the first gun that I ever got. I actually wound up getting the first real gun I got, and it's not even a real gun, but I got a Mossberg. It's a little 22 rifle. You know, I just started plinking with that, and then eventually I moved up to a shotgun, started shooting stuff with that, and then ultimately got my pistol license and started with the hammer fired guns. You know, I wanted to get something that I was comfortable with carrying because I felt like for me as a new gun owner and a new carrier of firearms, I wanted to be as safe for myself personally as possible. So I actually went with a hammer fired handgun. And, you know, again, as you get a little bit more comfortable carrying, you know, and you start getting a little bit more proficient, I then turned to the striker fired handguns, wound up selling all my hammer fired handguns only to eventually go and buy them back. And now I have hammer and striker. But, you know, the revolver thing that Big J brought up, I mean, I've never owned a revolver. I personally, for me, I just don't see a use for it. I know there are some people who are diehard revolver fans. I mean, I could see myself getting like a single action cowboy gun or something just to have one and put it on a shelf somewhere. But I don't really see, for me in this day and age, getting a revolver, although it is kind of funny because, you know, a 6-round revolver is just about the same as a 10-round striker fired handgun, which, you know, unfortunately, that's what we're relegated to. So.
So I started, I mean, I've definitely gone through several different phases. I mean, the first gun I ever shot was a 1911 Colt 45. But the first gun I ever owned was a Smith & Wesson 915, you know, it was a double action, single action steel gun, did have 15 rounds. It was right around the time of the Brady bill, but for whatever reason, I was able to get a couple of 15-round magazines for that. And that was really the only gun I had for, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years, maybe a little bit longer than that. And then I was at the gun store I used to go to here in Kansas for a long time. They had a Glock 17, and the guys were talking to me about that, and I decided to give it a try. And I actually traded in. I don't do this anymore, but I traded in the Smith & Wesson for the Glock 17. It was a Gen 2. The Gen 3, I don't think it was out yet. And I liked it. I thought it was really cool. And then I gravitated to the Glock 19 not long after that. And I basically kind of hovered around those two guns for a pretty long period of time and stuck with those. And then I finally started kind of branching out just a little bit. I would try something out here or there or whatever, but I always kind of liked the Glock, and then spent a fair amount of time just being engrossed in Glock because I figured out how to take them apart and kind of mess with them. And YouTube came along and I learned the 25-cent trigger job and some of those types of things. And so I got really involved in that. And then, you know, when the channel came along, that's when things kind of blossomed a little bit for me. And I started trying all sorts of different things. And now, like you guys, I mean, I've come to really appreciate, especially double action, single action, certainly CZs and even single action like the TSO, things like that. And I've really learned a great appreciation for that. Now I don't carry double action, single action, so I'm not as big of a fan of the double action pole a lot of times, although some are pretty good. But it's been a lot of fun. It's been an interesting evolution. And when I look back at the guns that are in the collection currently, that are in there right now, there's some that I just absolutely love, and just think very highly of, and then there are some that I look at and I'm like, you know, it's funny, I still have one of those, and it tells me something, like a Glock 19. It's different than the Glock 19 I had 10 years ago, but I still have one, and that kind of says something to me, you know, that all of a sudden you go, you know, I still have that in the collection. There's some merit to that. I mean, do you find that there's one that just hasn't ever left, or some variation of that?
Oh yeah, I have my original 439, which was my very first gun when I got it when I was 18 years old. So, and I still own it today, and it's a great gun. It's double action, single action. You know, I mean, it's nice to appreciate older guns that you've really, maybe like your first gun or something that, you know, I mean, I think there's a good appreciation for that. You know, and a lot of people that I personally know, they're like, man, I wish I still had my first gun, or I wish I still owned it, you know, because they've gotten rid of it. Matter of fact, I still have my first 22. So, but yeah, I mean, I think it's whatever, you know, that person enjoys, and you know, like 17 said, you know, some people go one way and, you know, get rid of all their double action, single actions, and then revolve back around to it. I just, you know, I know we've talked about this before, and it kind of brings up a little point with what we're talking about, but I honestly feel, you know, double action, striker fire is just a constant trigger. It's always the same. And, you know, I kind of feel that, you know, a newer shooter, that's probably a really great pistol for them to learn on. You know, a double action, single action takes a little more finesse or trigger control, so to say. And I enjoy that much more than I did when I was younger. You know, and plus the triggers are even better, but I look at it as more of a challenge personally. I don't know if you all do, but I do. It's a little more trigger discipline, and I enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
17, how about you? Is there something that you look at and you're just like, man, I still have that, and it's still fun. I still love the gun.
Well, I didn't have it, and then I got it again. It was the P01. That was the one gun that I should never have gotten rid of, and that's when I started transitioning from hammer to striker fired only. And you know, after a while, I just said to myself, man, that was the one gun that got away that shouldn't have, and then I wound up buying it, and then obviously the Omega also. And those are just two guns that, for me, I think for me, they epitomize everything that's perfect in a firearm. I mean, yeah, you know, we could debate on the trigger shape or whatever, but I think overall we all would agree that, and maybe not, but I still think the P01 is the masterpiece of the CZ. And, you know, that's from my aspect of being a concealed carry owner. I mean, I don't shoot competitively, so I know you guys are big on the Shadow and the TSO, but I just think that CZ got it 100% right with that P01. You know, sure, there's been some problems with it. You know, I know some people have had some issues with their striker pins and all that other stuff. But those are quick fixes. Those are pretty easy fixes, you know, and it doesn't cost much to replace that stuff. But I think for me, that has always been the one gun that there was just something about it, you know, it just felt really good in the hand. It's easy to carry. It's a really good shooting handgun. And for me, that's the one that will always be beside me, so to speak.
Nice. Yeah, you've turned me onto the P01, and I can see exactly why. It is a ton of fun to shoot.
Yeah, there's just something perfect about it. I mean, I can't say that about a lot of handguns. You know, I used to feel that way a lot about the PPQ. I feel that way a little bit about Steyr, although I don't know, my views on Steyr are starting a little change a little bit, but not because of the gun, but because of the manufacturer. And it's a damn shame because you know, in my opinion, the Steyr manufacturing is just missing on a big gun that they could be doing so much more for. And it just sucks. It sucks to see a good gun just not ever being taken seriously, you know?
Yeah, their marketing is horrible.
It's terrible. It's horrible. It's so bad.
I mean, you know, and I know that we know about them, and you know, a lot of the subscribers do, but you know, I've even gone in gun stores, you know, back when and said, "Hey, do you have a Steyr?" And they're like, "What's that?"
Yeah.
Like, have you been in guns very long? And they're like, "Yeah, I own the shop. I've been here 15 years." And I'm like, "You've never heard of a Steyr?"
Or if you mention the word Steyr right away, they think of the AUG, you know, and that's it. There's no connection with those handguns. And, you know, and if you don't mind, KS, can I segue into something else or?
Sure. I don't care.
So, you know, my thing with what I'd like to talk to you guys about, and also everybody who's watching, you know, all 28 at this point. I don't know. I'm just making that number up. But, you know, one of the things I was wondering was, have we seen the peak of the handgun world? You know what I mean? Because, you know, right now it's kind of dry. There isn't a lot being offered. You know, we had that really big push with the SIG 365. And, you know, it was now, oh, it's a 10-round magazine and it's the size of an ant, you know? But at the same time, have we really just come to the peak of it, you know, where there's really nothing else? Because I wonder, you know, I mean, there's really nothing right now that to me is worth getting. You know, there's some I'd like to play with, but, you know, I'm still waiting for IWI to come out with that Masada. I know that the Type B has finally shipped, so people are getting those. Again, I'm not going to get one of those. I'm not going to pay that kind of money for that handgun. But I just wonder if we've kind of come to the end, you know, of really seeing that huge plethora of handguns that came out, you know, for a while there. It was just like almost like every week there was a brand new striker fired handgun or something. And now it's just slowed down to nothing.
Big Johnson.
Well, you know, kind of think, you know, especially with maybe a striker fire pistol, you know, how much better or how much more evolution can you put into it? You know, I was able to actually put my hands on the PPS with the little shield. So I put my hands on it, dry fired it, and they had it as a rental gun, but they also had 2 of them for sale. So I was like, wow, it's pretty interesting. So I picked up the rental gun and I asked the guy how many rounds has been through it. And he says, well, he thinks about 500. I was like, okay. So I played with the trigger and I was like, you know, and it just didn't really do anything for me. I was kind of cool. I thought, well, this will be neat because it's a small pistol with the red dot, but that didn't really take off. But, you know, one pistol that I'm still really excited about and I want to see it in person is the Alien. You know, I know we've talked about it before and it's kind of like a CZ type based. But man, just the cuts on it, I mean, it's just so cool looking. But I don't know the MSRP. I have no idea. Sure, it's not going to be cheap, but it is a really cool looking gun, you know. But is it going to be better than like a Shadow 2 or something? I don't know. I just think it looks cool. But yeah, we might. I mean, they might, you know, and hell, you've kind of answered your own question. You know, a lot of people talk about like the evolution of Glock. You know, they really haven't changed a lot of stuff, but they still get their market share and they're going to get it. But I don't know, man. That's, I guess it's kind of like maybe a year from now, what will we be, you know, will we be like, oh gosh, there's 15 or 20 new guns out, but how much different can they truly be?
Well, I think maybe just from the engineering in regards to the ergonomics, you know, I mean, I still think like a SIG is still a little bit behind the times in regards to just how high that gun rides, you know, although they're not good bad guns.
Yeah.
I just think, you know, like I remember that Kalashnikov was going to be coming out with a handgun and that thing looked like it was a friggin' awesome beast of a handgun. And it just kind of died out, you know, it was just gone, but it looked like a really innovative looking handgun, very low, you know, had kind of like that Steyr look to it, but just even more badass if that's possible. And it never went anywhere. So I don't know, you know, I just wonder if we're coming to the kind of to that crossroads of maybe nobody really having that innovation at this point.
What do you think, KS?
I disagree. You posed that question earlier today, and I thought about that, and my first instinct was, perhaps we have plateaued a little bit, or everything will be evolutionary, not revolutionary, sort of thing. But then I thought about things like the P365 and scoff, if you will. I know it's had problems, so I'm not specifically talking about it, but the concept of it, something that's much smaller but still packing pretty good capacity. That I think that sort of thing will prompt other manufacturers to maybe think outside the box or do something similar, perhaps something that maybe hasn't run into as many challenges as the 365. And I'm still a fan of it, but then also the Hudson. Some people were mentioning the Hudson, and although I didn't have the best luck with mine necessarily, a lot of people have. And once again, I think the idea behind it is fantastic. I loved it, and that's why I really wanted it to work, and really was so excited to get my hands on that dumb thing, because I thought it was so different, and that was inspiring to me. And so I think it's still out there. I think the idea that manufacturers want to try some different things, but not all of them. I think some of them, I mean, and I like Glock, but I think Glock is going to stick to being Glock, and there's nothing wrong with that. They do it well. I think some manufacturers are going to stay the course because the course is working for them. It's the right direction. But some of these other companies, especially smaller companies like a Hudson or other companies like that, might really try and do some things a little bit differently and challenge themselves or us to really kind of think outside the box. So are we done? Have we plateaued? It is certainly possible, but I like to think that no, I think there's still a little bit more in there, but I don't know how much more, because we have a lot of guns these days that work, and they work really well. And there are a lot of choices for us. So how much more should they do, you know?
Right. Well, and we talking about Glock, how we were kind of, when we talked about it before, what is it? The Glock 47, it's that rotating barrel. And I know that they're testing it in another country and stuff like that, and they've been running it. And will we see it here? Will it take off? Will it be earth shattering? Will it be like the flattest Glock ever made? Who knows? That could be really great for them. They're not the first to do the rotating barrel. However, it might be really cool in a Glock and might work well. So that might be, maybe other companies might start doing something to that, or like 17 said, and I know we've said it before too on the SIG. If maybe they'll lower the bore axis, maybe they'll do a revamp, maybe PPQ will do a revamp and get that height down. Maybe people will, really start shaving some of this stuff down to really get a lower bore axis. Who knows? Maybe they'll just take what they have and start tweaking it to where it really, start doing what the people are asking for.
So are we good on that one? I don't want to jump ahead. Okay. All right, cool. I was reading a comment real quick. Thomas R. Smith was saying, had more failures to feed with his Glock 19 than had with this 365, then something is wrong with your Glock 19.
Yeah.
I would say,
yeah, that's for sure.
The likelihood of that happening is pretty small. Not saying it can't happen, but I would say there's probably something wrong there that could probably be pretty easily solved. Yeah. Just a thought on that. But actually, Thomas, I'm coming back to you because you posed a question a little bit earlier, and this goes back to the earlier part of the conversation with the evolution of guns and everything, because you specifically asked, which 1911 do you guys like? And I know some people were kind of answering, and I saw Ruger in there somewhere, but it's a gun that he doesn't have in his collection currently. So is it worth getting one? So what do you guys think of that? Good 1911s, and is it worth getting one?
Yeah, I mean, there's some great 1911s, Les Baer, Ed Brown, depending on your price point, Wilson Combat, and then if you're just getting into it, I mean, I've shot a Smith & Wesson Performance 1911, and it was great. I've shot some Springfields, some older Springfields, and they're great 1911s. It just depends on what your price point is. When you're getting a 1911, some of the less expensive models can have some issues. However, I know, a lot of people are getting really good luck. I know Coda Boy has one, some other people have them, and I know that you've shot them, like the Rock Island Armory. Some people are having really good luck with them. And, I just feeling the gun and feeling the slide. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm actually pretty impressed with that pistol. For the price point, I mean, $650. I mean, for a double stack, 1911. I mean, it's a great buy. There's some little things that I've heard, with extractors and things like that. However, there's fixes for them, even aftermarket wise. So I don't know. There's a lot of selection out there. I wouldn't get a super, super cheap one and just expect it to work. Like a Taylor or something like that. I would save up a little more money, get something, hell, Smith and Wesson has a lifetime warranty on theirs. I think Ruger does too, and I don't have a lot of experience. I know you guys or KS might. I don't have a lot of experience with the Ruger 1911s. I know people who have them and they've worked great.
Well, I'll come back to that. 17, what do you think?
I just, I think it's all going to be dependent on the type of gun owner you are. I don't own any 1911s. I don't have any real, rush to get one. I think for me, it's more about, if you have unlimited resources, sure, why not? I'd love to own a, really high end 1911. And even, at $500-600, while that's not expensive, it's still a decision that you have to make. I mean, if it's going to be, a boat anchor, if it's going to be a paperweight, then it's not really worth paying that. If it's a gun that you're going to be using, a gun that you shoot, a gun that you could take to the range, whatever it is for, then yeah, absolutely. If that's what you want, then get it. I mean, for me, everything I get is just, for me, I have to plan it. I got to make sure I've got the funds for it. And the 1911 for me just doesn't fit in the budget. I mean, you could pay $600 for a 1911 or $400 for a PO7, and at the end of the day, which would I be more apt to carry? To me, it would be the PO7. You can get a $600 1911, or you can get a, $450, $500 PO9, and you're still getting a hell of a gun. And that's probably a gun you're going to be more apt to carry. So I think it also depends on just the gun owner you are. For me, the 1911 just doesn't really do anything for me. I know some people will be like, oh my God, that's anti-American, but it just doesn't. I mean, if somebody wants to give me one, send it to me. I'll keep it. I have no problem with that. But I'm not going to rush out and buy one anytime soon.
Actually, I won't type that since, okay. So Randy kind of topped onto that a little bit and said, do you think a 1911 has to be a 45? So you guys know, I love 1911s. I cut my teeth on them, shooting handguns. First gun when I was a little kid, shot a 45, Colt 45, and just about blew me back, and it was the greatest thing ever. I'm in the middle of testing another Rock Island. To be honest, this is actually their TAC Ultra FSHC. Yeah. So this thing, it's a 2011, but it's 9mm. And so to answer your question, Randy, no, I don't think it has to be. Yes, traditionally they are 45s, but now they offer them in different calibers, and I think that's fantastic. So you get to choose the caliber that you want to shoot. For me, it's usually 9mm, and have a lot of fun. And I will tell you, a 1911 full frame 1911 with a 9mm is so soft shooting. It's so much fun and so flat. And they're just, they're great. And I love the ergonomics of them and that sort of thing, but they're not for everybody. And budgets can definitely come into play. I mean, you can get decent 1911s for under $1,000, like Rugers and Rock Islands. There are a few other brands as well, but I really picture really, really good quality 1911s that aren't custom, somewhere in the $1,000 to maybe $1,500 range, because then you get into some really good Springfields, some good Colts, and other ones like that. But 1911s, I think they're just a lot of fun. Pistol Pete, I'm still studying this gun, so I'm not sure how much this one is. The one that I featured like a month ago or so, I think it was like $800 or somewhere around there, that 22 TCM 9mm. So they're not that expensive, and I've had great luck with them so far. This thing is a tank. This thing probably weighs 50 pounds, but it's just, I mean, the thing is just awesome. This thing is massive.
That's the one I was talking about. I didn't even know you had it, but that's the one. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
It's an absolute tank, and it feels great in the hand. It's very different. First 2011 I've ever tried, and it's a homage to Bald and Curious a little bit with his STI, but although not on par with it. But
well, and like you were saying, I feel that 1911s, yes, die hard, they're 45s. Okay, and one reason that I got rid of my 1911s is because most of the 45s, they hold 8, 9, 7, etc. rounds. And then of course you can get some extensions. But then I really started thinking about it, and I was like, and I love FN. I mean, I'm a big FN fan. And I was like, you know, I'm going to grab the FNX because I had it before in the tactical version. And, you know, the thing holds 16 rounds of 230 grains of hate. So you really can't go wrong with that if you want a 45 version. And I love mine. But yeah, that pistol that you have right there, I can't remember the capacity. Is it 20?
No, I do not believe so. Again, I just picked it up, so I'm still kind of learning on it, but I would say it's somewhere in the 15 to 17. I could be wrong on that, but that's what it looks like to me.
Okay, because for some reason I was thinking it was more, but I know they have extensions for those too, because there's people who shoot those in competition, and you know some people trick them out and stuff like that. But you know, I'm really interested to see what you think of it when you run it through its paces and see how it does. You know, I'm kind of excited. I know that Coda Boy loves his, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked. I'm pretty stoked about this. And again, I like 19. I like 19.
I do too. I grew up on them. So, all right, what we got next?
So we did have another question. Music, I want to come back to your question. I don't want to neglect you at all. She'd asked PO9 versus SPO1, and I think there was accuracy. Which one is more accurate? Which one do you like better? Kind of go nuts with that. We're getting into CZs for a while, just so everybody knows. But what do you guys think?
Go ahead, 17.
Which SPO1? Phantom, Shadow, Tactical?
Take your pick. Shooter's choice.
I mean, I had a PO9 a while ago. It was great. I have another one. It's haven't shot it yet, but it seems like it's going to be great. I really like the Phantom quite a bit. That would be one gun that I probably will wind up buying again at some point because I did sell it, of course. But it's interesting because I mean, accuracy. Which one's more accurate? I don't really know. I mean, it's going to be based upon you. It's based upon that first trigger pull. I mean, anybody can make this in single action be very accurate. I mean, they're heavy guns. It's got a long barrel, so it can be accurate right out of the box if you want it to be. But I think really it's going to be up to the user. I tend to shoot these always in double action first because that's the first shot you're going to get off. At least for me, because it's on with the decocker, not the safety. So I mean, which one's more accurate? It's hard to say. I mean, what do you feel more comfortable with? I mean, the P09 is a lot blockier than the Phantom is. The Phantom, in my opinion, is a fantastic gun just because of the ergonomics on it. But I think they'd probably be equally accurate. At least I would think. I don't know. Now, if you go with the tactical, the thing weighs 25 pounds. So that's probably going to have the advantage. You go with the, the Shadow 2. Well, that weighs 87 pounds. So, as you're going up the scale, it's just going to get more and more accurate just because of the weight. So I think it really is based on you, the shooter.
Yeah. I personally don't have the Phantom, the polymer Phantom. I've held it and, pulled the trigger and stuff like that. I do have the SPO1, steel frame. And it's he's right. It is a heavy gun. And it just kind of goes back to preference. Okay. And I know that my fingers are different than most people's and hand size and all that other stuff comes into play. But I just prefer the Omega trigger because it doesn't poke into my finger. And I can still shoot all of them fine. But over a long period of time, it just doesn't fit my finger as well on the hook trigger. So I would prefer the PO9 or the PO7. That's just personal preference. Everybody has, that's 31 flavors. Now, the advantage to the Phantom and the SPO1 is, it uses standard 75 mags, where the PO9 and the PO7 and now the P10C, they use their mags. So if that's, if you've got other CZs and their 75 variant, you might want to go with the Phantom. You don't have to buy extra mags, but it's just something that you're gonna, if you're able to shoot them. And I know that she has a PO9, and I think she really likes it. It's just going to be, what that person or she is going to really gravitate towards.
Nice. I'm a little biased. I've always had better luck with the SPO1 versus the PO9 or even PO7. For whatever reason, there's enough distance between that, you know, the reset and getting back to the wall again on the P09 and the P07. It bothers me for whatever reason. So I do prefer the SP01. I've got the tactical and then the shadow orange. And now both of those, they're cheating a little bit because they've been, you know, the triggers have been reworked and all that kind of thing. But I've put it to where I want it, so that's important to me. But I just like the SP01, even the Phantom. I liked it significantly more. I thought it just, even though it doesn't seem like it would feel better in the hand, it seems like the P09 or P07 would be far more comfortable and ergonomic. For whatever reason, with my hand, it just really wasn't. So I like the SP01. But either work. I mean, yeah, Big Johnson, you're a huge fan of the P09, P07, and you make them work. So obviously they can be just as good.
Well, today I actually had a really good day with the P07. I actually surprised myself. At 100 yards, I took the P07 and hit, I think, once out of 5 at 100 yards. So I was like, damn, never really shot it that far. But, you know, I was kind of happy about that. But one thing that I actually forgot to mention, and maybe y'all did too, I actually like the P07 and the P09 slide because it's larger for me to grab, where the other one is more rounded and really small. You know, it's just harder for me to rack that particular slide, just being smaller. But that's just me personally. You know, most people wouldn't have an issue with it.
So really quick, Young Guns asked me if this P09 has the really super bright night sights on it. If you guys have never owned one of these from the factory with their night sights, there is no night sight known to mankind that's brighter than these. I mean, they are just, it's freaking unreal how bright they are. You know, I always laugh because, and I'm never going to get a sponsor from this company, but you know, you have night vision or fusion or whatever it's called. We're the brightest night sights ever invented. No, you're not. These are the brightest night sights I've ever owned, ever. It's like sunlight. It's like daylight. You take it out and you're like, oh, daylight. You know, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, I don't know what the hell they put in there, but apparently they got it from Chernobyl because those bad boys are bright.
I was gonna say, when I lay beside mine in the hotel, I'm like, damn, I'm gonna get radiation poisoning from that.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, keeps you up at night because it's like a spotlight
shot. Now, I will say this on the new P10C. You know, the real skinny, narrow ones, they suck. Okay,
oh, they're terrible.
We're talking about the older generation of night sights, like what they're putting on those. The little skinny one with the orange circle sucks.
Yes, absolutely. They're horrible.
Yeah. The new ones, or excuse me, the old ones, and they're the bomb. I mean, if I could just buy a bunch of those and know that they wouldn't go bad sitting somewhere, I would probably buy them and keep them.
Frank, is Frank still here? I don't know if I haven't seen a comment for him in a little while, but he asked what the status was on the Omega 45K. A lot of you guys know I picked one up. I think it was April somewhere. I think I'm expecting it hopefully to get out of jail sometime, maybe late October. That's the hope there, but it is still in jail. Unfortunately, it takes for freaking ever for that stuff to clear out. Now, I understand that some NFA requests go much faster than cans, like maybe an SBR, that sort of thing. Apparently, those are more like the 3-4 month range versus a can, which is more like 6 to 8 months. So that's kind of a weird deal.
I can't even get a gun under 2 months. What are you talking about?
That's true. That is true.
Speaking of that, we got to, you know, we did went to American Resistance Gear today. I just want to bring it up real quick. We did the Texas, you know, shot, and man, we shot some fully automatics, a lot of suppressors, and he has a foldable pistol. You can actually fold it in half. The barrel snaps off, and you put it inside the brace or inside the rear brace, and it's a package, literally like you could put in a lunchbox. You pop it open, and I mean, it's called the Mighty, and has a built, you know, little suppressor. And I mean, I was at 100 yards. I was just chewing like a hand-sized target up. I mean, this thing was just unbelievably accurate. And the whole thing was not this long. I was just like, holy crap, it was awesome. So anybody wanting something like that, that's the place to go.
So Bald is saying, what's the difference? I'm only going to shoot it at the range. Bald, just so you know, I'm an operator, so I need a can on my waist at all times. Thank you.
That's right. Don't let his good looks fool you, man.
Yeah, right. I am so not. No, you know, that's a great point, except, and we've talked about this before, and I know we have different thoughts and opinions on cans and that sort of thing, but I actually am looking forward to getting it at home because that will become part of my home defense setup. That is important to me. But you're right. At the end of the day, it's fun at the range, and that's when I'm going to use it. Probably, right? So it doesn't necessarily make a difference. But
well, why do we have mufflers on cars?
Right, to have another part.
Yeah, I mean, it's a freaking, it just makes it quieter and protects your ears. It's America. We should get them. Period. Shouldn't be a question.
Right, and then you remove that muffler and you get 2 giant MagnaFlows put on the back of your truck. So what are you talking?
Well, I've got but it's still a muffler. It still passes EPA.
Okay, so 17 had brought up another topic, and this is pretty relevant to what's going on right now, especially with Hurricane Florence. That's certainly been the big news. We keep the news on at work all day long. It's muted, but we can watch it, of course, when we're doing other things. And they talked about the hurricane every probably 4 minutes, so clearly on everybody's mind. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about preparedness in an emergency. So, guys, what are your thoughts on being prepared in some sort of an emergency, whether it's a hurricane or maybe if you're in my area, tornadoes or whatever it happens to be?
Go ahead, 17.
I think you can, I mean, if like you're like a major time prepper, then you're going to be just great. But I think the majority of people wait, probably a day or two before the storm. They go to the store, they buy 5,000 gallons of water, 4,200 cans of beans, and sardines. And then they say, all right, I can live through this. I don't know. I don't know what the extent of really the preparedness is for us as people. I mean, I think it's easy to overwhelm systems. I think that's been proven time and time again. I mean, look at New Orleans, look at Florida, and we're going to probably see it, unfortunately, in North Carolina and South Carolina. The system, is easily overwhelmed because it really doesn't have the resources to have that kind of demand put on it. They usually test the systems in counties and in cities to see what the stress levels are of those systems and the hospitals and everything else. And a lot of times they fail like within 35 minutes of those tests. So I don't put much stock in, the authorities or anybody, and it's not a knock against them. I just don't think they have the resources or the manpower to do what's necessary, which then of course brings in, having the National Guard available, having a president who is able to manage the system, having FEMA come in and assist and actually be effective at it. So I think there's a lot of things in regards that are outside of you as a person. On the same side, though, I would say, this is why I think we should have the ability to carry firearms, because, people are gonna, go into these areas, there's going to be looting, and I just think in order to protect yourself, you should have the right to own those firearms and carry them with you. But I think ultimately being prepared, I've seen a lot of videos where everybody says, I've got this med pack and it's got 4 billion things in it, and I don't know how to use any of them, So, I don't really know. I mean, there's practical things you can do, and then there's just unrealistic things, I mean, how many people know how to, treat barotrauma? Anybody? I do. But not many people do. How many people know how to intubate a patient who has a compromised airway? Not many people do. Not many people have the equipment for that. I know a lot of people will carry bandages and tourniquets and everything else like that, but the tourniquets aren't meant to be long-term problem solvers. I mean, eventually that blood is going to back up, it's going to get toxic, and ultimately you're going to die. I mean, but that's the reality. So I don't really know. I don't know if we're prepared for this. I just think it's unfortunately going to be a disaster for those folks. So sorry, that was a big rant.
Yeah, as far as, prepping for food and water and stuff like that, I mean, I've got, I'm not, and I'll admit it, I mean, I'm being honest, I'm not like Mr. Prepper guy. I've got, some basics, water and rice and beans and stuff like that, and dog food for the animals and stuff like that. But, as far as guns and ammo, I've got that stuff. But, people don't think about like even gas for their generators. Right. I know people who have generators, but they have no gas. And I'm like, okay, what if something really happened? Even a tornado hit, there's no gas station, or it knocks the electrical out. You can't pump gas from, I mean, then you're going to steal it from other cars. But, a lot of the new cars have blocks on them, so you can't really do that unless you cut hoses. But, it's would we get into an SHTF or like, you were saying 17, looting and stuff like that. I mean, people are going to do what they have to do. So by all means, we have to defend ourselves and protect our families and homes and, our property. But, because we went through that, and I actually have family that was really affected. Homes were gone, flooded, with the Texas flood that we had on the coast. And, the houses were literally gone. And one of my relatives lives on a hill, so all around it was a lagoon, and they were on an island, and they couldn't drive the cars out. They were stuck, but luckily they had some food. They were somewhat prepared, but they ran out, people brought them stuff in a boat. But, I really hope that, that everyone's okay from this. And I know it's going to be a mess. I mean, but what's crazy is when Florida hit, there were people stealing tennis shoes out of a Foot Locker or whatever. And it's like, what the hell? I mean, people turn into animals.
Yeah.
Not life-saving stuff to save for them and their family. They're stealing shoes.
Yeah. Yeah. TVs, shoes.
Yeah.
Hey, let me steal a TV when there's no power. You're a genius.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just obviously it's going to bring out the lowest common denominator, and a lot of different situations like that are going to. So you're going to have a certain amount of that. I know around here the biggest threat usually is tornadoes, although in the city, in Kansas City, it's pretty rare. They typically don't like the atmosphere of the big city, so they go around us. And in the X amount of years that I've been here, I won't say how long, I won't tell you how old I am, but I have never actually seen one before. So it's pretty rare in the immediate area, but they're around all the time. So it is certainly a good idea for us here to have, at least 3 or 4 days worth of some food and water and that sort of thing, some just basic essentials until if the worst happens, people can dig you out. That's really the big thing around here. We don't get a lot of other big natural disasters or anything, thankfully. So that's kind of what we worry about. But in terms of any other crap at the fan sorts of things, it's a whole different scenario, and that I don't know, that could widen us up into a whole different hour-long conversation, I suppose. Yeah. But in terms of prepping for storms and that sort of thing, that's really what we go through here. It's all about tornadoes.
Yeah. And
real quick. Go ahead. I was just gonna say, I've got a quick question or comment. We're always trying to prepare for our homes and, what happens if we're stuck at home. But do y'all actually prepare your vehicle if you were stuck somewhere or stuck in traffic? We're literally, I've seen traffic not move for 6 hours. It's shut down. So do you carry stuff in your cars, in your vehicles?
Yep.
I do. I have a go bag, and of course firearm on me, but I've got water, I've got, food bars. Because people don't ever think about that, or if you're on a long trip and your vehicle breaks down in the middle of nowhere, to where you have no self-service, what are you going to do? You can't pick up a rock and throw it. Nobody's going to hear it. So I'm just saying, just keep some of that stuff. They got those food bars that last for like years. It's like a big brick. I've got a couple of those. Just if something happened, and you're stuck in your vehicle or away from your home, be prepared for that too.
Well, I think one of the most overlooked things that people don't carry with them, and yeah, you can have your food and everything else, but ultimately, if you're stuck somewhere, your ultimate goal is to try to get back to where you need to be. And the one thing that most people overlook is footwear. I always have a pair of my Solomon boots in my truck or my Jeep now, and they're Gore-Tex, low-level insulation, and they go with me everywhere. I don't care if it's winter, spring, summer, or fall, because you got to protect your feet, because once your feet go, that's it. So I'm a big believer of always carrying them.
Because if you're cold or wet or, your body's going to shut down, hypothermia. So I carry a big jacket too, but it's just and rain gear, just a little rain slicker. Never know what you're going to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So along with this, a couple things. First, Big Al has it all figured out, I think, and it sums up what I think everybody's trying to achieve. He's got a full tank of gas, a half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark out, and he's got sunglasses. So I think that really is where everybody needs to go with this.
Listen, he can barter that tank of gas and those cigarettes for things.
There you go.
So,
yeah, right.
Smart man, right there, Big Al.
That's just genius. Now I have to go watch Blues Brothers. But Texas teacher was actually asking a couple of questions during this conversation, and one of them I caught, and it was how much ammo should we have? And I think we can apply that to being prepared in certain certain situations. So realistically, how much ammo do you think you should have?
As much as you can get. I mean, I'm being very honest. People that go, oh, well, I have 200 rounds. I'm like, where's that? What's that going to get you? I think for every caliber that you have, well, put it this way, I won't tell you how much I have, but I have plenty for every caliber that I have, because you don't ever know if they're all of a sudden, Remington or whomever that's going to make, the ammo manufacturing, if they're going to have issues or file bankruptcy. Or if it's just going to be like the 22 shortage. If y'all have ever been through that, I know we have. I enjoy 22s, and hell, it was like, stealing teeth to find bricks of 22 or even single sleeves of 22 for a long, long time. So I've got plenty of 22 that could last me and my kid. So,
17.
As much as you can afford. I mean, and honestly, it depends. What are you storing it for? Are you storing it for the end of the world scenario, or is it going to be more for shooting? I mean, I buy whatever you can afford, whether it's hollow point or, FMJ, who cares? Just buy it. Just buy it, because it's still going to poke a hole in somebody and they're not going to like it. So.
So for me, I think it all depends on the application. Yeah, I like to have a fair amount of ammo here in the house. Certainly, there's plenty of backup. But if I'm thinking of some sort of storm emergency or something like that, especially when I have to leave the house, I'm not going to take 2,000 rounds of ammo with me. Let's be realistic. That's probably not going to happen. So 3,000, right? That's much better. I mean, sure, it'd be great, but the idea that you're going to need that if you're trying to get out because of a storm or something, I think is a little bit less likely. And I use that lightly because I haven't been through this, so I'm not speaking from experience. I'm sort of juxtaposing, but for me, it would be whatever my firearm, and it would probably be a Glock 19. Just let's be realistic, right? And I would probably, depending on what bag or what options I have to transport and carry, whatever I can on my body and whatever I can, and go bags, that sort of thing. I would try and take 4 or 5 extra magazines, something like that. I mean, enough to where, if I had to defend myself against looters, or it's something in an instant that I had to deal with, that I could. But again, the idea of having thousands of rounds, it's great at home, and if you want to stay at home and defend your home, that's fantastic. But if you're on the move, for most people, that's just not practical. So I think what's the answer to how much ammo should you have? Well, it's up to you to determine what's realistic for you and what the situation it is you're doing, and kind of like both of you guys have said. So there isn't really a right answer. But I've talked to some people that, and Big Johnson, going back to what you were saying, around 2012, 2013, after Connecticut happened, 22, that became gold for quite a while. And I've talked to a couple of people that said they had, 25 to 50,000 rounds. And I sort of sit back and think, why? Why? I get it if thousands of rounds, I suppose, but tens of thousands or more, I just have never really understood that.
Well, if you kind of flip that and you look at it this way, in a bartering situation, say SHTF happened, ammo is going to be a huge bartering tool, even more than paper money, food, that can get you what you need, probably. But also, when it's in demand like that and you have that type of stockpile, you can sell it. I mean, you could, you could use it, how you felt accordingly. And you could also, arm other people, family members, friends, things like that weren't as prepared, so, and the same with guns too. Like you said, we can't just load up our whole collection or whatever and run out the door, but I can also arm family members. I can, that's kind of the way that I look at it. Not so much as, I'm not going to load up, tons of bags and start wagging guns, but, people in my circle will be okay. That's kind of the way I look at it, because if they're not going to be prepared, I love them, so I want to help them. It's kind of the way I look at it too.
That's a good point. That is definitely a good point. I know most of my family, it would be a totally different situation. They'd be looking to me to be the gun guy. So I'm sort of on my own in that regard.
Yeah.
I mean, I think up here in New York it'd be easy pickings. I hate to say it. I mean, you know, it's New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would say where I'm in my neck of the woods, there's a lot of gun owners, but you know, the further south you go for me, definitely less gun owners. So they wouldn't have a chance. They would absolutely have no chance here.
Yeah, they would just depend on others, you know, or the police to protect them.
Let's see. Oh, Bald was actually made a good point. He said never barter ammo. It can come back a lot faster. There's some truth to that. That's some interesting wisdom. I like that.
Yeah, if it was, you know, you getting food and your, you know, for your family or something like that. I'm just talking that kind of scenario. Yeah, I don't just say, here, have this ammo. You know, but I mean, I shoot a lot. I enjoy it. I use it. It's not like, you know, and also everybody's like, man, I can't spend, you know, $400 on 2,000 or rounds of ammo. Buy a box at a time. You know, if you go to Walmart and go grocery shopping, grab a box or two, you know, and then eventually your small collection will turn into a large one unless you shoot, you know, like a lot of us do. You know, 1 and 2 boxes, man, over a period of time, it adds up. You'll actually get a really good collection doing it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I prefer bulk, and then
Well, I do too.
me, but no, that philosophy is fantastic, and I think a lot of people do that. You know, if they're at Walmart or you know any of the big box stores that carry ammo, that sort of thing, especially if they see a deal. You know, if you see $10 or $11 for a box of 9mm, yeah, snatch it up. Why not, right?
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, we are getting on to towards the end of the evening. What's going on with you guys upcoming?
Go ahead, 17.
You know, I got PO9, Glock 19. I got a couple more holster videos for holster month. I actually have a couple of late entrants coming, which is interesting. You know, it's kind of funny, you know, you put those videos out right away and you get holster companies wanting to send you stuff. So I'm like, okay, whatever, you know. But I think it's good too because it's allowing people to see that there's so many awesome options out there too, you know. Yeah. So I got a couple of those coming. Trying to think what else. I don't really know. You know, I'm just taking it week by week. The holster thing has definitely saved me because, like I said, a lot of those have been pre-recorded. So all I do is hit live and then it goes to YouTube and it's done. So I haven't had to really do anything. So I'm getting a little bit of a lazy mode. Plus work is picking up, so I'm very busy right now. So I don't really know. I really don't have a good idea of what I'm doing with anything at this point. So that's where I'm at.
Well, first, I want to say thank you to all the subscribers for watching. You know, it means a lot that y'all tune in to us to check out the Three Guys Gun Chat. You know, y'all are all in our hearts. We appreciate it. But you know, I picked up something today. It's in this, so we'll be doing a review on that. And I have the other exciting surprise that I've been waiting for. Should be in when I get back in town. Ordered it a while ago and it's in. So got some stuff coming up like that. And I've been testing, if you're following on Instagram, I've been testing some holsters, some belts, some gear, and it's been long-term testing that I haven't done reviews on, and those reviews will be coming. Tested some more of it today, and so far, so good. So that's kind of what I have going on.
Nice. So I've got an If I Could Only Have One on the way this weekend. That one has been promised for quite a while, so I'm past due on it a little bit. Then I'll have another If I Could Only Have One coming pretty soon because I haven't done very many of those this year, so I kind of missed that a little bit. You guys saw the Rock Island. I actually one of the few guns left on the list. I went ahead and picked up. It's actually the EZ. And I'm extremely excited to get this out on the range. I just picked it up last night, so I'm looking forward to that. And I think unless I can find the PPS M2 with the shield for a decent price, I think that's it for the year. And I'm done probably until SHOT Show, because I've got a lot of stuff to go through. But oh, and one other thing, I did want to show everybody. This is pretty cool, and there's some folks out there that might appreciate this. Working with Armory Craft a little bit more, and some of the grips and some of that sort of thing. So I've been sort of nerding out out with some of this stuff, and I like the red. The red is pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that. So I've been kind of dorking out with that stuff. But anyway, I echo what Big Johnson said. Thank you guys all very much for joining us. It's always a pleasure on a Wednesday night to chat with other fellow gun lovers and that sort of thing. It's always a lot of fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it, gentlemen. It's always a good time.
Yes. Thank y'all.
Till next time.
Appreciate it. Y'all all carry on.
Bye, guys. Thanks again.
Have a good night.